vision and pay me. It's never this way. Me indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity. This your opportunity, your opportunity.
Welcome to EDI on the Street. This is the show where we, your guides from GraceBlood, really get into all things EDI and supply chain. Today, we're tackling a topic that, well, it seems to hit home for a lot of folks. We're calling it Real EDI Complaints, Real Talk.
Yeah, we've looked through the material you shared, articles, forum posts, even some notes, and it paints a really clear picture.
Absolutely. A picture of those raw, unfiltered frustrations companies often have with their EDI providers. We're going to zero in on a couple of big ones you highlighted.
Right, those onboarding nightmares seem to be a recurring theme.
Definitely. And those hidden costs that kind of sneak up on you, these aren't theoretical problems, are they?
No, not at all. These are real-life frustrations, things that real users like you have actually voiced time and time again.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here, and you really see it when you look across all the different sources you sent, is that these complaints, they're not just isolated incidents. And when you listen closely, these patterns, they really reveal where EDI projects tend to go off the rails most often.
So our mission today is really to break down what's actually happening behind these common issues.
Yeah, give you a clearer view of what to maybe watch out for, and crucially, what questions you should be asking to maybe avoid these problems yourself.
Okay. So to kick things off, let's look at that fundamental disconnect you mentioned, the one that really seems to run through so much of this material. It's that stark contrast between what EDI providers promise you upfront and what you actually experience out in the field. It's kind of a classic expectation versus reality gap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a major driver behind those onboarding nightmares you flagged.
You know, almost every EDI provider, when they're trying to get your business, they say pretty similar things, don't they?
They do. You hear it all the time.
We'll get you onboarded fast. We'll handle everything. You know, you won't have to lift a finger.
And the big one, it'll be seamless.
Exactly. Seamless. They paint this picture of like smooth sailing, quick transition, effortless integration. But then the real world hits. And what do these documents you shared consistently show? Well, it's often a very different story.
Yeah. Delays. Agonizing delays sometimes.
Missed deadlines again and again. And lots of finger pointing when things don't go to plan.
Right. The blame game starts.
As you were looking through your own notes, I wonder, have you ever felt that specific frustration, that, disconnect between the promise and the reality?
Oh, absolutely. It's a story we hear constantly, and your sources just confirm it again and again. I've seen companies, and the case studies you sent back this up, waiting months.
Months.
Yeah, months. For onboarding that was explicitly promised in, maybe a few weeks.
Wow.
And when you dig into why these delays, the biggest culprit, honestly, it almost always comes back to these inefficient internal handoffs within the provider's own team.
Handoffs, okay.
It's a problem that kind of weaves through the whole process, but it's especially bad at two key points.
Which are?
First, the handoff from their sales team, the ones who made all the promises.
Right.
And then later, from implementation over to the ongoing support team.
Okay, I can see how those could be friction points.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what actually happens at each of these stages is, well, it's really telling. And honestly, it's often damaging to your experience as the customer.
How so?
Well, at every single one of those handoff points, you, the customer, often have to re-explain everything.
Again.
Yeah. Your needs, your specific business processes, your partner requirements, the details of your existing systems. One of the research papers you included actually said something like 60% of customers felt they were repeating info they'd already given during the sales process.
60%? That's staggering.
It is. And, inevitably, when you're constantly repeating and things are getting translated between teams, crucial details get lost.
Yeah.
Or misinterpreted.
It's like that game of telephone.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like telephone, but, with your critical business operations hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
And these lost details, they aren't just small annoyances.
No, I bet not.
They directly lead to more delays because the new team is scrambling, trying to figure out what was missed. They lead to rework.
Meaning they have to redo configurations or mapping?
Precisely. Redoing the rules for how your data translates to your partner's data. And all of this naturally just leads to more and more frustration for you, especially when you were promised seamless.
And just sounds incredibly inefficient, constantly having to re-explain your needs, especially when you're paying for this, you're investing time, you're expecting, an expert process. You signed up for a solution, right? Not to be the orientation leader for every new person you talk to.
Exactly.
And what's interesting, and your sources kind of hint at this, is how these delays and inefficiencies, the ones caused by those bad handoffs,
Yeah.
they start to quietly rack up those hidden costs we talked about earlier.
Right. It's not just the obvious fees.
No. It's the opportunity cost, isn't it? The wasted employee time internally, the delayed go live that hits your revenue. I saw one comment in a forum you shared.
Oh, yeah?
Someone mentioned a 3-week onboarding delay cost them a new retail partner for the holiday season. That's a huge unseen cost.
That's massive. And it highlights exactly why these handoffs are so detrimental. It's the lack of consistent communication, the lack of clear ownership within the provider.
So no single point person.
Often, no. Or if there is, the knowledge transfer process is broken. When there isn't a dedicated contact, or at least a really robust shared system for passing all the critical info from phase to phase, well, you, the customer, basically become the walking, talking knowledge base.
Responsible for getting each new team up to speed.
Yeah. Which isn't just frustrating, it pulls your internal resources away from their actual jobs. It slows down your whole path to getting value from the system. I remember one case study you included.
What did it say?
It described a company where their internal IT team spent like 15 to 20 hours a week for 2 months just managing the handoff process, time they should have been spending on their own internal systems.
That's incredible. Just wasted effort.
It really is. And this raises a really important question for you listening. How much are these communication breakdowns, these lost details in the handoffs, really costing your business?
Beyond the immediate delays, you mean?
Yeah, far beyond. Think about the extended project timelines, the missed opportunities with partners like that holiday season example, the internal staff hours sucked into project managing the provider instead of doing strategic work, and just the sheer mental drain.
Right.
These are all very real costs. Significant ones that you won't see itemized on any invoice.
I can definitely see that. But let me just, play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
Couldn't a provider argue that, look, every business is unique, so some re-explanation is just inevitable. You need customization, right?
That's fair. That's a really important distinction to make.
Where's the line between, necessary discovery and just plain inefficiency for the customer? It's not like there's a magic button.
No. Definitely not a magic button. And your sources actually touch on this. Yes, some discovery is always needed for truly unique business rules or processes. The problem is when the re-explanation covers standard stuff you've already provided multiple times.
Oh, okay.
Or when the new team comes in acting like they have zero context from any previous conversations. That's the red flag.
So it's about the type of re-explanation.
Exactly. And interestingly, one report you shared highlighted providers who were tackling this. They implemented something like a mandatory warm transfer meeting.
A warm transfer?
Yeah, where the sales lead, the implementation specialist, and someone from the future support team all get on a final call with the customer before the official handoff.
I see. So everyone hears it together.
Right. And apparently, that simple step drastically cut down on client re-explanation, something like 70%. And it even reduced onboarding time by about a quarter in their pilot programs.
Wow, that's significant.
It shows it's about designing processes to minimize the unnecessary repetition. It's about respecting your time and ensuring that knowledge actually carries through.
That makes a lot of sense. And it really underscores that the promise versus reality gap isn't just about feeling annoyed. It has real, tangible costs.
Absolutely.
But, okay, your material points out that onboarding is just one piece of the puzzle, right? You mentioned these 6 pain themes from the field.
That's right. Onboarding is huge, but there are definitely other recurring headaches.
So let's move on to another major theme you pulled out from the sources. The rigidity trap, when changes break the bank. What's that about?
Ah, yes. The rigidity trap. This one's kind of insidious because it often hides behind what looks like a really attractive low upfront cost.
Okay.
The problem, as several articles you sent point out, isn't necessarily the initial cost of the EDI system itself. It's what happens later, after you're live.
After the sale is done.
Exactly. You might sign up for a system that seems perfect for your needs right now. But then, down the road, every little change you need may be onboarding a new trading partner with slightly different requirements.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Right. Or updating a business rule for an existing partner. Or even just adding a new data field to a transaction map. Things you think should be minor tweaks.
They turn into big projects.
They often turn into major development efforts, complete with formal change requests, significant additional fees, and sometimes weeks or even months of waiting. What you thought was a small adjustment suddenly costs an arm and a leg.
So it's not just the money, it's the time, too. It sounds like it impacts business agility.
That's precisely it. It's about agility. If every little change is expensive and slow, how can you respond quickly to market changes? How can you onboard that important new partner fast? How do you even innovate?
You get stuck. One piece you shared talked about companies getting effectively locked in.
Locked in is the perfect term. This rigidity genuinely stifles your ability to adapt and grow. Your expansion plans, reacting to supply chain issues, even just upgrading your own internal ERP, it can all get bogged down.
So why? Why are some systems so rigid?
Well, it often comes down to older legacy system architectures. Or sometimes it's very proprietary technology that just wasn't built for easy customization. Another factor is often a lack of self-service tools for you, the customer.
So you're totally dependent on the provider for everything.
Exactly. And what's really insightful from your sources here is that the best providers, they aren't just selling software, they're selling flexibility.
What does that look like?
It looks like systems with intuitive user interfaces where you can manage common changes yourself, like updating partner profiles. It means clear, upfront pricing for modifications if they are needed. Or even better, an API-first approach.
API is allowing your own team to connect and make changes.
Precisely. Allowing your team to handle many adjustments without needing a vendor work order for every little thing. One research finding you included was really telling.
Yeah.
It suggested that providers offering self-service partner onboarding capabilities saw their clients expand their trading partner networks about 40% faster.
40%. That's a huge competitive edge.
It really is. It shows the value of that flexibility.
Okay, that's a really concrete thing to look for. Now, speaking of ongoing issues, let's touch on another theme that came up a lot in your material. The silent drain, inadequate proactive support.
Right, the silent drain. This one really hits a nerve in the customer feedback you compiled.
It sounds like it's more than just waiting on hold for tech support.
Oh, much more. The issue here isn't necessarily that support is unavailable when you call them with a problem. It's that the support is almost entirely reactive.
Meaning they only respond when something breaks.
Exactly. You only hear from them, or you only need to reach out after something has already gone wrong. They aren't looking ahead, they aren't proactively monitoring your connections or transaction flows, and they're certainly not preventing problems before they impact your business.
Can you give an example from the sources?
Sure, there were examples of failed transactions just sitting there, unnoticed, for hours, sometimes even days, until the customer finally spotted the error. Or EDI performance starting to degrade, slowing down order processing. But the provider's team doesn't flag it until one of your partners complains.
Ouch. That sounds stressful.
It is.
And what are the real costs, the unseen costs of that reactive approach for you, the listener? It can't just be the time spent fixing the immediate glitch.
No, you're hitting on the core of it. The costs are profound, really. A purely reactive support model is basically an open invitation for business disruption.
Like that failed order example.
Yeah, imagine a key order from a major customer doesn't get processed because an EDI transmission failed silently in the background. That's not just a delayed shipment.
It could mean lost revenue.
Lost revenue, absolutely. It could mean chargebacks from a big retailer. It could seriously damage the relationship with that trading partner. The reputational cost, while maybe harder to pin down on a spreadsheet, is immense.
Because EDI is about trust in the supply chain.
Exactly. Your sources really hammer this home. Reliable EDI is fundamental to supply chain trust. When that reliability falters because nobody was watching proactively, the whole chain feels it.
So what's the alternative? What does good proactive support look like?
Well, a key insight from one of the industry reports you shared is that the top-tier providers are moving beyond basic break fix. They're using things like AI-driven monitoring to spot anomalies. They often provide dedicated account managers who actually conduct regular performance reviews with you.
So they're looking for potential issues before they become critical problems.
That's the goal. They provide visibility and insight, not just fixes after the fact.
That's incredibly insightful. It paints a much clearer picture of what a real EDI partnership should look like, way beyond just getting set up initially.
So if we try to summarize the core takeaways from looking at all this material you gathered, what these sources really reveal are these critical recurring patterns in EDI complaints.
Right.
We've talked about that big disconnect between the promise of smooth sailing and the reality of delays and lost details during those onboarding handoffs.
Mm-hmm.
We've also dug into those hidden costs that pop up from rigid systems where every future change feels like pulling teeth and costs a fortune.
And that silent drain of support that's only there after things break.
Exactly. And recognizing these patterns, it isn't just about complaining. It's really the crucial first step towards managing your own expectations much better when you're dealing with EDI providers.
And evaluating them more effectively from the start.
Precisely. By knowing where these projects often stumble, you're just much better armed to ask the tough questions and, frankly, demand better processes and service.
Absolutely. And we really encourage you listening to think about your own experiences, especially around that initial onboarding phase, the flexibility or maybe the lack of it for ongoing changes, and the kind of support you're actually getting. Is it proactive or just reactive?
Yeah.
Recognizing these common frustrations, the ones so many businesses face based on the material you shared, it can really empower you to steer your own EDI projects away from those same roadblocks.
It's about using this shared knowledge to build more successful partnerships.
Less stressful ones, hopefully, and ultimately more cost-effective EDI strategies for your business. So what does all this really mean for you, considering how easily crucial details can vanish in those handoffs, how system inflexibility can become this hidden financial anchor, and how reactive support can quietly damage trust and revenue?
Right.
We invite you to maybe think about this. What are the true, often unseen strategic costs of settling for an EDI setup that just seems fast or cheap on the surface?
And maybe, how could asking deeper questions about a provider's internal processes, their handoffs, their approach to flexibility, their support model, how could that impact your bottom line and your business's ability to adapt and grow in the long run?
Some important things to consider. We hope these insights maybe raise some useful questions for you about your own EDI strategy, whether it's current or future. Thanks for joining us on EDI on the Street.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll catch you next time.
It's never this way, we indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, this your opportunity.